field to be able to be running these satellite offices and these leaders in very different continents. So I decided to go back to school while working to learn how to especially coach.
Yeah, so you were coaching, you had clients in Kenya as well as the US, or where were you based? You were based in the US, or you were
I was
based
in the Netherlands. I was working
okay.
in the Netherlands with an international organization in Netherlands. It was located in Alkmaar. And I worked there for 7 years, doing all this coordination, literally globally from Alkmaar.
It's very interesting how you're like to hear about your career journey, because when do you first realize you want to be a writer, to write a book?
It was in 2011, after my coaching and just the exposure I went through in that degree, because it was an online degree. And what that meant is that I had to read a lot, because you're doing all the stuff alone. There's no lecturer to lead you and guide you. And as I read all that, I just realized how I was reading about people's stories. And I just knew I also had a story that I have to tell. And in 2011, I felt I really needed to write, but I thought I wanted to write a memoir. And in 2012, I started writing a memoir.
Interesting.
Which I finished in 2017. But it's not published yet. And I'm happy it's not published yet.
Why is that though?
I couldn't get a publisher. And it makes sense, because sometimes you write a memoir, nobody knows you. Who would have bought then? I'm happy. And it was also a journey. My memoir was also coming to terms with my journey of my upbringing back in Kenya, in a small village in Western Kenya. My journey meeting a Dutch hunk of a guy, getting married to him, and him taking me to this small village in the Netherlands called Houlavik in Friesland. Just my journey about the struggles in life, the adjustments I had to do, the pain of adjustments, and how then the pain turned into joy, into healing, and into kind of like what you would call a good ending, and I felt I have a story to tell, that I felt like I've come out from the other end of this tough journey of growth. Actually, I came out to the end in a winning way that I felt I wanted to share with the world. So that's why I wrote my memoir.
Is a memoir, is it part of is it in the stories and in the accounts that you provide in Invisible No More, this new book, is it part of the story of your memoir, or how is it different from what you currently have? Yeah,
my current book is really a workbook for my coaching business. But in this workbook, of course, I do tell my stories of my struggles and how I got healed from. For example, I was depressed for 5 years and I didn't know it. So I do tell my stories about how I felt and what was wrong with me. What was, when you're depressed, what happens to you? You have a high flying job, you have a high salary, you're going everywhere in the world, but at the same time, you're depressed and you have no idea, and you work, and you get so many addictions and things to, you get so many things to do. Like, that's what I did. And yet my life was unmanageable. My emotional life was unmanageable. I think that's the best way to put it. So my current book is like a workbook for my coaching practice, but it has a little bit of my story also in it.
Right, because it really does. The book in itself is an expression of your journey, your life journey. Absolutely. And what brought you here. Yeah, absolutely.
And using that healing and that pain to just bless other people, to just bring healing to other people, and to show people, if I was able to come out of that, everybody can do that.
How was it like? Or maybe Yulia, you have some questions. You can always jump in at any time. We're having a conversation, so if you have any question, you can always ask.
Of course.
Yeah, I was listening to your podcast. In your podcast, you mentioned the story while you met your husband
Ah,
on work, um, working for the, is that with the international organization?
Yes.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that you had these your own 3 rules that you sworn to yourself you will never do. Like you will never move from Kenya, for example. What was others do, and how do you feel about, like, stopping yourself, but the life goes, and just uh, how do you feel about it now?
Or the fact that there was no way I would have left Kenya if I didn't meet my husband.
Yes.
Now, the background to that for your listeners is that when I went to college, I went to an American university and my dad could not afford it. It was a private university. And an American I never knew at all offered to pay my school fees. And he was paying $4,000 every year for me to go through college. And that really touched my heart. And in the university I was in, the motto was, we were being trained to be the solution for Africa. So I knew this is God talking to me, telling me, okay, I've given you this opportunity because I want you to be a solution for Africa. So you can imagine that was ingrained in my psyche, in my life, in everything I did. Even when I met my husband, I was not even working in my own country, Kenya. I was working in a more poorer country than Kenya called Southern Sudan to serve the Sudanese. I had even worked in Somalia, which is was the most dangerous country then, and almost lost my life there because I just believed this person had blessed me with this gift of education for me to be a solution to Africa. And especially being a woman then, it was, I finished college around 1992. But then even women didn't have high education access easily, so I was among the few who had degrees, who were well educated, well trained. So I was easily also able to get jobs with the international organization as a woman, because they were even looking for women who are educated, who can have leadership positions. So then I meet this man. You can understand why coming to Europe was never my plan, never. And so when I came, it is also, I tell in a story called the pain of my grandmother. It is also the reason why I had the most difficult time adjusting in Netherlands than normal Africans. I always say I had the worst culture shock, because I was struggling at the same time to settle and just struggling with coming to terms that actually my life's dream is gone for me to be a solution to Africa. What do I feel now? Everything really works for a reason. While in 7 months of being in Netherlands, I got a job with an organization which was working for peace. And as I've told you, I was then the coordinator for Africa, Asia, Middle East, all these continents. And what happened then is that I visited Asia, so the way they were doing things. And of course, I was very familiar with what was happening in Africa, because I'd worked in Africa for many years, also in being a gender equality advocate. So I knew the world of Africa and how that was happening. So I would learn things from Asia and I would take back home. I would learn things from Middle East and I would take back home. And I became this link almost in my job to almost link the continents, the women in the continents, to learn from one another. I started bringing platforms, so I was bringing them together. So in other words, by the time I was working like that, and up to now, I still serve Africa very deeply, I realized my calling of being there to be a solution for Africa doesn't mean I have to be in Africa.
It's so interesting when from the side people would want your life sometimes, And like you see, like you live in a beautiful country, you have a beautiful family, but still, like when you feel that like kind of something that you desire, like your hurts, your heart is somewhere else. That is interesting how people others see it and how you feel it from your side.
If your goal is to serve, you never know where it will take you. That's what I would say. And especially for young generation, I think everybody should be very careful to say never. Because I really had said I will never get married to a white man. I don't know why, for any reason. That was a very strong feeling I had, because I was working with most of them, most of the organization I was working with expatriates who are white, and people used to tease me, oh, you are always working with these colleagues who are white, you'll get married. So because of that teasing, I very easily, and I had decided in my heart, I'll never get married to a white person. I ended up marrying a Dutch guy. I said, I will never leave Africa. I've now lived in 3 European countries. I've lived in Luxembourg, I've lived in Belgium, I've lived in Netherlands. I'm really a European adjusted, and I love Europe. I love the European. I wouldn't do it any other way, though the beginning was very difficult for me to adjust and accept my fate.
Yeah, that's true. You never say never.
Never say never, right?
and if your life is to be impactful and to have fulfillment, actually, let me put it that way. If you want to have fulfillment in life, you never know where that will take you. So I would not advise you to say never. Be open.
Yeah, because I think that the underlying foundation should be the values that you want to live by. It really has to do with the vision that you have and the mission that you have decided to carry forward. And then you don't, that is what then is your overarching desire, to have that vision fulfilled. And that can be done from wherever you are at.
Yes.
So rather than saying that I will never be able to do it here, it's a question of would what I want to do here succeed? So from this plane that I am right now, can I use the position that I'm here right now to actually address what it is that I want to address? Because obviously, having left Africa, having left Kenya, it exposes you to more opportunities that you would actually use to be able to help back home the way that you envision, because that is your ultimate, that's your ultimate desire, to give back to the community where you were born.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the ultimate. The ultimate thing is really to be able to say what is your mission, how are you visioning the future, and how can you be able to achieve that? What are the value systems that you are building to actually achieve that? Would you agree with that? Would you see that perspective?
Yeah, the values play a very big role. It plays a very big role.
Right, right.
Because that's what informs the decision you make, and where you go. So I would agree with you.
What point in your career did you realize that they were kind of transformative in terms of listen, I could be doing something else rather than doing the rat race of the corporate world?
Let me say I was actually forced into it. My son was going to class 7, that is in the Dutch system, and he started struggling a lot in school. And by then, see, the traveling corporate world meant I'm home maybe in a month for 2 weeks. And the father had taken a lecturing job so that he can stay longer with him. But as a mother, I felt I have a bigger role to help him than the father. So I